kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Kids, welcome back. Happy Tuesday. So, last night we finished up with epoxying these panels on for our deck, so we got some room for our deck. And we also I put on the sides, the outer sides. They only go on one way. You can't really screw it up. Just try to be careful. You want to get this totally flush, no gap if possible, and obviously flush against the bulkheads. Use a square, get these two side pieces in nice and tight. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is remember these bumpers that we doubled up yesterday? We're going to put these dudes in so it looks just like that. Okay, like that. Sorry. All right, we're going to epoxy those in, clamp them up. That's going to hold down our hood or our cowl, and then we're going to, at this point, I believe I'm going to seal it. All right, there was one more piece to the puzzle. I'm assuming it's in this bag. Yes. Okay. And we're going to seal it. And while it's, I'll talk about that in a second. These are super fast build. Just like the electric one. It's really not too bad. And my buddy Fred, that over at Lawless Outboards, I talked to a great deal in the last couple days. Terrific guy. I got that ordered up. Hopefully he gets that out as soon as he can to us, and we'll get this piggy floating and rolling. But we got to paint it yet and seal it and all that good crap. So we're going to do, in this little bundle of goo here, we've got two little triangles. There's one. There's the other. Okay. And those little triangles are going to go right there. So we're going to epoxy those in on each side. Okay. We're going to epoxy these in, and then we're going to clamp them so they're nice and tight. Then we're going to put in our little triangles for support. Then we're going to seal the inside of this. I am actually going to use epoxy this go around. Usually I use clear coat, but this is such a big boat. The sponsons are so big, I want the extra support in there. So we're going to go ahead and epoxy seal. You can do the center at this point if you want, but at least these two pieces here. Kid interruption. So anyway, since the sponsons are going to go onto here, I just want the extra force. So I'm going to go ahead and at least epoxy in here. I might epoxy the whole thing. You don't have to do the radio box yet. You can if you want, I suppose, but it's better off just to let that sit. But we got to get these sealed up so we can get our top decks on. All right. Now, the one thing you need to do with these, same thing as the electric tunnel, is you need to put tape over these right here. Okay, that's where our bottom spins are going to go in. You don't want to get any goo in there, so you can use masking tape. I'm actually just going to use a little bit of hatch tape. It's nice and light, see-through, not that that matters any. And we're just going to put a piece of tape just like that. It's exactly how I did it on the electric build. No difference. Same deal. And that is it. So, 2 layers, depending on how thick of an epoxy sealer you're using, whether you're using West Systems or whatever. If you're using West Systems for this, I mean, that doesn't add much strength. I'd put definitely two on there. If you're going to just take 30 weight epoxy or T88 or whatever you're going to use and get one nice thick, you can probably do it that way too. You don't really have to worry about these outboard holes. I am going to put tape on them just to keep them from gooing out, but I can always just file those if I get anything in there, because those you have access to. This will be a bear if you don't do it right. So I'm going to glue on these cowl supports, and I'm going to seal this whole thing up. While that's cooking, we're going to start cutting the sponsons, I think. So be right back. So I did leave one thing out. While you're getting ready to seal the inside of everything, you want to go ahead and assemble your radio box lid. Okay, and that way you can seal this while you're at it. So take yourself a sand block, get the nubbies off. This is the top, or the lid. Okay, get the burn off. It's just easier to sand this now than later. That's all it takes. Not this like 150 grit. Pretty weak. Or pretty coarse, I should say. Yeah. Had some weird rain come through. 2 seconds. Alright, there we go. Now we're going to take these. I can't remember what these are for. I should probably save them. And you got those. Okay. Very simple. So all you're going to do, take yourself some CA glue, and you're just going to line these up. Yeah, we'll use medium. Okay. We're going to be sealing the crud out of this thing anyhow. Don't have to get too fancy with it. Okay. Give it a shot. You don't need to saturate the whole thing. Just and all we're doing is just following the lines. Alright. Very simple. So yeah, I screwed up. Forgot to show. I always forget the radio box. I don't know why. Probably 'cause I'm so used to using my own, I don't think about it. We don't have that option here. I'll probably make it my own servo mount, but okay. And one last bit. Okay. Let it set for a quickie. And we're done. And that fits perfect. Lid's done. And then we'll go ahead and seal this as well when we get ready to do everything. So, I'll be right back. We're ready to do our massive sponsons. So we need to make 2 of these. Okay? 2 separate pieces of foam. I'm going to show you on the first one. So, what you need to do first, you got a rough side and you got a flush side or a smoother side. Put the smoother side up, okay? And I know this might be a little bit backwards looking, but then what you're going to do is you're going to take a tape measure and measure 1 inch from the bottom edge up. Okay, now in my case, I'm going to use a caliper that's locked in. Okay. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on this side. Okay. Then we're going to take our square that came with the kit, and what we got to do is you have to kind of line these marks up. Try not to change it too much. We're going to put our square against the deck. Okay, just so like that. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to rinse and repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Okay. So we're going to measure 1 inch down. Hopefully you can see this. You want these to be as close as humanly possible. We're going to mark, make sure your gauge is flat against the deck or your bench, or else you're going to end up with an angle, and that's a bad day. Okay. Good. Then we're going to take our sides, say in, they're the only ones that say in on them, and you're going to line them up just like that. And then we're going to pin them, okay? Then we're going to cut the tops, we're going to cut the bottom. But you got to make sure these are both the same way, because the flatter side is the bottom, this is the top, the curved side. So top, bottom, okay? Do the same thing with this one. Bottom, top, all right? So I'm going to pin this up, we'll double check everything, make sure she's perfect, then we're going to do the other side. Be right back. All right, so I'm going to show you how I do this. You can see I've got this pinned, and I've also got, so round side is this here, or more curved, and the more curved side is here as well, both front and back, okay? So what I do, you saw me measuring those, right? But the reason I like using the caliper is you can lock them in. This is locked in at an inch, or 24.5 mil. What I do when I line these up, even before I pin them, even though I have the marks, I put this edge against the foam and that against the wood, and verify that it's all copacetic. Smoking hot wife interruption. So what I was getting at was, I just take this edge, I lock in my calipers, line it up with the edge of the foam, and then line it up with this. So I use the ink mark or pencil mark and this dimension at the same time. Makes it perfect. So what I do, it says in the manual, squeeze the crap out of them, squeeze the crap out of them. I don't. What I do, and I did this on the electric one, and it worked really, really well, and I think it'll work well on this one too, is I just use some bar clamps. Make sure you're clamped below where you're cutting, obviously. We're going to cut this whole top off, then we're going to loosen the clamps a little bit, flip them over, re-measure, make sure it's right. So what I do with these, I cut the top first, because remember our measurement's down here. It's 1 inch off the bottom. If I cut that edge first, I have no way to double check my alignment. So I'm going to cut this top part first with the wire cutter. Then I'll flip the clamps over, flip the whole part over, and double check, measure again. Don't want to have to get a new kit or a new square 4x4 piece of foam, and do the other side. And then we have to do that on the other sponson too. That's going to make them symmetrical. Then we need to make them left and right, which is a whole other devil. So I'm not going to record the hot wire setup, just because I did it with my electric video, and it's just, you're not going to be able to see much anyway. I guess I can. We can do a little bit of it. So it says in the manual, and I figured this out the first time I did it too, if you just start a little bit in from the edge, don't start the edge. So I actually start the thinnest part, so it doesn't really matter. Now you're probably not going to be able to see this super great, but that's going to heat up. A little 2S battery. We're going to sink it in. I'm going to push down and gently drag. And I do have an extra wire for when this is my old one, so when this one breaks. Now the manual says, or Joe says, I can't remember, that you can use a 3S battery to make this go faster. But it wears out the life of your cable, your wire, and I kind of enjoy this part, so I'm in no hurry. So we're going to go ahead and do, so I'll make sure you're putting downward force on it, so you're always pushing against that wood. It's just less sanding you'll have to do later. Gonna hit that clamp. Ah! That's okay. Just a tiny bump. We can clean it though. Okay, see what we got. You can see how flexible my wire has become. There it is. Look at that. Might slap another clamp on the end of these just for, but that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one, finish it, and do the other one, and we'll be right back. Right, and we're back. So now what we're going to do, we have both of these cut. They're both identical, right? Okay, so the top is the curvier part, the bottom is more flat. And then you just mark them, put them so they're mirrored. So top here, top here. Don't mess this up. If you do this, you made 2 lefts or 2 rights. If you do this, you'll make a left and right. You can mark it with a happy face, mark it whatever you want. Then you take those two sides that we just used for templates, and the part where it's marked in, put that same, match it up, and that's where it's going to go. Okay, and same thing with this one. This one has an X. I marked an X, and that's how that one's going to go. Okay, so what you want to do here, these holes, you don't necessarily have to tape them. Not a big deal. These are alignment holes, but these, put some tape on the back side, the side that says in, that's the inside. Put some tape on there so you don't get glue and goo in those slots, because it makes your life really difficult later on. Now all we have to do, make sure you're on a really good flat surface and you've got no schmutz underneath you. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to take epoxy, and we're going to epoxy each one of these, and we're going to pin them. And then we're going to put a weight on them. That's why you don't want to have anything crappy underneath. You want this to be nice and flat because it's the inside of the boat. So this will be our right sponson, this will be our left sponson. Okay, and just line them up best you can. And then we're just going to glue that pig down. Now, one thing I do want to mention, you guys saw me put those big clamps on the ends when I was doing the foam cutting. I was still squeezing the wood as I went. Those big clamps are just to kind of hold everything into position so you don't have to have a death grip the entire time. Okay, and it did move on me when I went to go flip the clamps around so I could do the other side, and I remeasured. So make sure you remeasure, it could save your butt. So all we're going to do is mix up some 30-minute epoxy, wherever you want to use, and we're going to smear it with a credit card, like an old piece of plastic or something like that, and we're just going to brush it on here, and then we're going to pin it down, weight it, and come back probably tomorrow, because it's going to take, I'm using 30 on this, so it's going to take a bit. Don't use fiberglass, don't use anything that's going to eat through foam. We're going to use good old-fashioned 30-minute epoxy. I did order some T88. I forgot that stuff even existed, and I read it in the manual. It's like, oh, T88, that's good epoxy. But it's forever epoxy. Like, it takes 16 hours to cure, but it's really good for using on decks and stuff. But it's not going to be here till Thursday, and I'm not waiting. So we're just going to use 30-minute. It'll be okay. Okay. We're going to line this guy up nice and neat. Smear it down. And weight it down. And that'll be it. So, make sure you have mirrors. You do not want two lefts and two rights. That's a really, really bad day. If those two aren't kissing, little slots, you're doing it wrong. Okay? So, that is it for today, because everything's curing right now. We sealed the inside of the hull partially. Actually, I did do the whole thing except the radio box. That's got to cure for at least 5 or 6 hours. This is going to have to cure for 5 or 6 hours. Actually, it's just going to cure all night. And we'll pick it up from here tomorrow. So, this is, and I will say, when I was building the electric one, the electric tunnel from Zip, this is a fun boat to build. It really is. It actually keeps me interested. And maybe that's because I haven't built a million of them. Or maybe it's just because it's so different. You get to cut foam with a hot wire. It's just really well thought out. It really is. Crackers I get bored with. That's why I kick them out in a day. I'm like, yeah, I just want to run a boat. I don't care. Build it, throw it in the lake. But this is an enjoyable build. It really is. I think out of all the kits I've ever done, this is probably the most fun. The most frustrating was probably the ML Boatworks Backlash Gen 3, which is one of my favorite boats on Earth, mind you. I built 2 of them, but frustrating as hell. But anyhow, that's just my 2 cents. Very fun boat. Try the electric one. Even if you're a gas guy like me, I'm 100% gas boats. I know I've been running a couple electrics here and there, but not my thing. But even if you're a gas guy, grab that little electric tunnel and you'll see. It's a fun boat, and it's fun to build, even if you put it on the shelf in your office or something. So anyway, enough of that crap. I'll talk to you guys on the flip. Keep the dry side up. Try not to flip. Bye.